I know one of your most popular talks, right, is on top tips for successfully leading innovation and change initiatives. So before we wrap our conversation, this session up, I want to ask you, are there any couple top tips that you can share with us today?
Well, I'll share a few in the interest of time. When I do these root cause analysis of why change initiatives, innovations fail, we find that innovations, in fact, almost never end poorly. They start poorly, and the end depends upon the beginning. What we find is the challenge is that early in a innovation project life cycle, many infected change initiatives are asymptomatic. So we don't know that it's going poorly. So I am a huge fan of investing on the front end, of investing early on. You know, when President Obama was in office, I got a call from the White House, and they said, you know, President Obama talks about everything as a project, and do you have any advice for him? And I said, I give the President of the United States the advice of another president of the United States from the same state. There are only two presidents from the same state. The state in the United States of Illinois, where some people know the city of Chicago, Illinois, in the middle of the United States. And that was perhaps our most revered president, President Abraham Lincoln. And President Lincoln said, if I had 6 hours to chop down a tree, he said, I'd spend the first 4 hours sharpening my axe. The naive leader will start at the beginning of the 6 hours chopping and chopping and chopping, and they would become very tired and they would not make great progress. But the wise leader would sit down with a sharpening instrument and sharpen the axe. And then after 4 hours of sharpening, they'd start chopping. The model that I've developed for innovation change is based on this concept. We spend the first 2/3 of the time on the front end before we even announce the initiative. It's the way fundraising is done. When Harvard does a fundraising initiative and we set a goal, we say this much, before we publicly announce that goal, 60 to 70% is often already raised. Before I start chopping down the tree, we've already done all the preparation. And this is, so change initiatives don't end poorly, they start poorly. A second is to appreciate that no matter what the change is, people will be resistant to it. It's human nature, whether it's homeostasis, maintain the status quo, remember, like a thermometer. Because what happens if the body doesn't maintain the status quo? If the temperature goes up too much, you die. Temperature goes down too much, you die. So whether it's biologically or systems theory, and this again is a concept that's not new. The Buddha talked about this 2,500 years ago. He talked about one thing, what he called the suffering of change. And he made two insights. One will be less surprising to many people today. He said, all people suffer change for one reason and one reason only: fear. And you can think about all the fears. There's fear of the unknown. When will this pandemic end? There's fear of the impact of the change on my job. It is impossible. It is impossible to get anyone to change when their job security, their job satisfaction, their livelihood depends on not changing. But the Buddha said something else that was fascinating. And I have seen this so many times in my work. He said, people fear change even when it's change for the good. The fact that it's a positive change doesn't make it any less scary. And I think leaders need to understand that when they introduce innovations within their companies, within their organizations, within their teams and departments, just because it may be perceived as a positive change doesn't make it any less scary. I remember before, when I was getting married, the night before I got married, I wanted to get married. I thought it was a terrific thing, but it still made me so frightened I couldn't sleep the night before. So there are many, many things that are, but I think perhaps most important, I'd say, to be successful, you have to be what I call a purple squirrel. A purple squirrel is the perfect combination of both hard skills. I don't want to minimize the importance of technology and all the other hard skills on the one hand, but on the other hand, the need for the resilient skills, the durable skills, the soft skills. That is the ideal professional, the ideal leader, the ideal employee is ambidextrous. On the one hand, they have the hard skills, and on the other hand, they have the soft skills. And that is what we try to cultivate. When you're mentoring someone, you try to say, you're terrific on the soft skills, people love you, but you don't have the technical skills, or your hard skills, accountant, attorney, are fantastic, but no one wants to work with you because as your emotional intelligence can be improved. And so those are some of the top tips for a pandemic that we might want to think about.